The Carthaginian army threw all they could muster against the cornered king of Armenia, but not only did they fail to kill him, but somehow there ended up being more of him. The general Bakru disappeared, replaced by one of the king's doppelgangers, who then aided the king in further battles against Carthage, gaining further victory. With their enemies defeated in the field, it was time for the exhausted Armenian host to march west in conquest once again.
So that is why we are not to eat the humans.
Because we're supposed to be protecting them?
Yes, that's the whole point. We are to pacify the mortals and bring order to the world. That will bring the box at the end of time closer to us.
Bring the end of time closer, you say?
For indeed Pandora's power is being used up, manifesting the chaos that covers the world. If all are bound to a single king, the most perfect order of all, then her powers will grow and her blessing will be bestowed much sooner.
Okay. So, why can't I eat them?
Because we are going to be the saviors of humanity. Well, I am anyway. You are going to be a good boy and do whatever I say.
I'm hardly a boy, your majesty.
Oh, you will learn in time. All we have to do is crush this Carthaginian republic. Then no one in this world will be able to stand against us. Pandora will grant our people utopia within a mere 1,000 years, then. I am certain of it.
So everyone alive now will die before then anyway. Why not?
Do not eat the mortals!
Hello there, welcome back to Wings of Eden. You might have seen there in the intro that the tribes in Italy were causing me a bit of trouble, but the end of that whole story is that they just randomly surrendered. They got annoyed having to pursue my men all over the place. Our constant retreating clearly scared them enough that they have just joined the coalition. Looking at Italy, this surrender gives us roughly half of the peninsula. The other half is controlled by a faction we're not at war with at the moment, which is a rare thing. So I thought, well, maybe we can buy them out as well, and after throwing a whole load of money on the table, the answer is yes, we can. Seeing that they're willing, I'm immediately going to take most of that money back off the table because they'll probably accept the same deal for less. And they do, so there we have it. There was still this one region faction to the west that wasn't in the coalition, so we'll quickly throw a whole load of money at them to get them in as well. And with that, I think that's all of mainland Europe now subjugated. Things are looking pretty good. Really, it's just the Carthaginians that are standing against us, controlling the bits of Africa that we don't have and Sardinia. Corsica is for some reason controlled by some Germanic tribe, and it turns out they're willing to surrender just for no money at all. They just don't want to be at war with us anymore, so we'll take that to throw them into the mix, and there we have it. Now it's pretty much Carthage and the one faction they have in their ranks here, the Massili nobles or something, who are very allied to Carthage. I kept throwing money at them and trying to get them to break away and become my puppet state, but they just weren't interested in anything, so they'll have to stay there for now. Now, speaking of Carthage, it's time to continue our campaign. Manuakapi pushes on towards Hadrumentum. We start the siege, but I immediately call it off again, because I had a couple of theories that I wanted to test. One was that Manuakapi is particularly slow when it comes to making siege equipment, so I thought if we put someone else in there first, they can quickly whip out a ladder and we'll just get an auto-resolve going real fast. The other was regarding supplies. I had this theory based on my observations that when an army is besieging an enemy city, their supplies go up, and that's the only reason that certain armies never seem to run out of supplies, whereas other armies always have no supplies. So that was a test of that. If you remember our Siuka from our Balkan campaign, I did have him walking home to retire, but he actually died on the way, as it turns out, because it takes so long to walk anywhere, so that was a shame for him. Funnily enough, he was just about to pass by a relief army going the other way, commanded by a guy who looks just like him, so maybe his replacement is already here. That second army was going to go and reinforce our invasion of Carthage, but they've fallen so far behind that really they're never going to catch up in time to take part in any action, so I'm going to end up having them just hang around Anatolia as a general garrison keeping watch on our vassals. Back to the siege then. After a couple of turns, I realised that not only is this new army not making siege equipment any faster than the last one, it's also not gaining supplies, and now everybody's running out of supplies, so that's great. As for the fight, just an auto-resolve since there's not much in there. But as ever, when we have an auto-resolve, the question is, will it be mysteriously disastrous and eliminate our heavy units? Things were looking good at first, but we did lose our pikes from the third army somehow. That's a shame, because we can't get them back. Doesn't really matter anyway, because they weren't doing very well when we did use them in battle. We're not going to waste any time here. Manuakapi, since he wasn't leading the siege, can still move this turn, and I thought let's just get on with things. Let's go for Carthage itself. We're going to try and bring down the Republic by taking their capital, and after that, I'm not so interested in taking the rest of their territory. We might be able to get them to surrender or something. I was surprised to see there wasn't a massive garrison here. Other Carthaginian cities have been much more heavily guarded than this. They've got a lot of ships, but not many land units. So I guess it's going to be easy, but that was a shame because I was looking for some sort of climactic battle to finish the Carthage campaign. It's going to take us ages to get the siege equipment ready to get into the city, so Manuakapi will just stand there for a long time. I did try to move old no unit card around to have a blockade of the ports as well, but because the garrison fleet's pretty strong, we don't stand a chance of actually holding that position. I'm going to instead move no unit card to the north to hang out in Sardinia, where our allies are currently trying to attack the Carthaginians as well, while Manuakapi and Ashurnasirpal will just hang around waiting for the battle to start.
You heard what happened to those desert folk?
Heard it.
What are we gonna do? Don't look that general in the eye. Even if he wasn't so hungry, best steer clear of him. He's one of those magic men you hear about.
The Dark Mages? They're dead, right?
All but one. He's one of the demons that the king created to do his bidding. You can find them all over the world now.
There was a guy talking about that in the column. Going on about... he wasn't too happy.
No one's happy. Everyone is hungry. General Bakru was murdered by the king. And even at home our families are no longer safe. There was talk among the officers last night, you know. Heard it with my own ears.
What talk?
Said some lords had gone over to the free nobles, the ones who don't listen to the chosen king.
Good for them. I don't know who those lords are, but right now I'm thinking I'd rather just do what they say than what those monsters say.
Reckon quite a few boys might be thinking the same. Thinking I might try and arrange a little something.
I was trying to be nice to the Carthaginians. I allowed my second army to mutiny, really just to see what would happen, because despite having like 500 hours in the game, I don't remember ever seeing a mutiny actually happen. Finally we forced it to happen, but as it turns out, anyone who tries to leave the service of the chosen king can never go very far, and it only affects half of your army. So what's happened is our second army is at half strength, and another army has appeared with the rest of the strength. Interestingly, if we were in allied territory, both armies would then replenish and you'd end up actually cloning your original army, which is quite interesting. Anyway, for now, we're going to go for this battle at Carthage. We still have the same number of troops because that new army is allied to us, so it joins the fight. Just means they'll be controlled by the AI, and our second army, as well as being very tired and generally useless, is now half dead. That said, with the enemy army not being very big, just using Manuakapi's army should be fine for this battle. As I had hoped, Carthage has a special city map, although the city is so big on the map that we actually deploy right up against the wall and up against the edge of the map itself, so a very quick start to the fight. Also, because we had the city under siege for like 6 turns, the walls and the gates start with low health, meaning that once our rams make the short journey to the gates, they can just ram them open right away and we're going to be in, even before the ladders have reached the walls. That's nice. They do have a few units up on the walls ready to defend, but in this case, these javelins aren't really dissuading us from advancing because they're throwing them at the ladder itself. Don't think that's going to do too much damage. My archers are trying to snipe enemies off the wall to soften them up, and generally speaking the wall's looking pretty open. If you look on the minimap you can see that's because a lot of their units are somewhere else, either at sea or at the back of the map just doing nothing at all. They haven't deployed very well. So at every turn, my attempts to get a climactic battle here has been foiled by the game. It's making it as easy as possible for us. So fine, we're just going to have to push in and take our advantage. Here a couple of units try to battle for control of the western gate. I sent some men through the southern gate that we also opened up as well. In this case, we had a little bit of an interesting incident which worked in our favour in the end. These men were supposed to climb up the towers to secure the wall and take down the javelineers up there, and some spears as well, I think. However, only a few of them actually did it, and most of the unit stayed back downstairs. But because most of the unit was sitting on the capture point for the gatehouse, this eventually caused the towers to explode. As it happened, it killed most of the enemy and didn't kill many of my men since they were all still down there, and things went quite well. So that's a good quick capture on that tower, destroying the local enemies, and now we'll have our way into the city. Manure Cappy's powers coming in useful there. Over here at the west gate, something similar is brewing. We can see that deadly capture flag gradually rising up with our men all over these towers. But because no one's up on the wall, the deadliness is limited. It does kill people outside the walls, curiously enough, so some javelins that we're repositioning out here are cut down to size by all the falling debris, but the rest of our troops making the attack are okay. Locally, the enemy unit defending this area has just been taken down conventionally, so we are going to secure this gate and have another way into the city, not that we especially need it right here. So there are a few units just inside the city defending a victory point we'll need to go on to attack. I've also made a somewhat pointless attack on another gate on the southern wall towards the east. Only some cav defending here, so my spears with extra spears on the wall throwing javs down will make short work of that. You might wonder what my allied army and our second army are doing. The second army sitting around doing nothing, didn't really plan to use it. The allied second half of that second army is going to attack the enemy navy, which landed off to our flank. I'm just ignoring them since I don't think they're going to play much part in the battle. And our allies can do what they want, I guess I can't stop them. You can see they've also pushed through the gate that I was attacking and are clogging up the streets, meaning I can't really move about very easily. They've gone here to attack the enemy commander. I've got some archers up on the wall to snipe over the buildings and support that attack a little bit. Also, the spears that went in through the southeast gate have found a few javs in the streets to fight, and some of the other guys have found another victory point to go and sit on and capture for no reason really. We're never going to capture all the victory points because they're too far away, we don't really need to, just doing it for no reason. What I was really looking for in this battle was a chance to use my 2 units of elephants to devastate the enemy. However, because they glitch out while trying to get through the narrow gate and then they get bogged down in all of our allied infantry in the streets, I didn't really get them into combat. A few of them got to the front here and started fighting with the enemy spears, picking up 100 kills or so in the fight, but no devastating routs of the enemy like I was looking for. Nearby, the enemy commander is defeated and runs away. The infantry behind also rout, and that's our way towards the nearest victory point cleared up. There was a bit of fighting over that victory point, but nothing too significant, and really once we damaged the units here, it caused a mass rout across the rest of the city, and we just picked up the win. There were quite a few units actually engaging our ally over at the southeast gate, including most of the navy and the enemy's reserves from deeper in the city, but due to that mass rout, we didn't have to worry about them at all. Extra easy as easy could be. We have taken the centre of Carthage, and with that their factions' hopes will fade away, and our victory really over the whole world is pretty much complete.
It is finally done. The Carthaginian Republic broken after all these years. Now none can challenge us. None can challenge me. As King of Armenia, King of the world, I will make the wealth of the million merchants of Earth into tribute. But first, a more pressing matter. Boy, come over here.
You look so pale, chosen king. Is everything all right?
No, it is not. The relief to finally complete my task has broken this frail body at last. I require a new one.
You're saying you can use your magic to regenerate your body?
Not quite, my boy. Not quite. I'm coming in there to sort you out.
What?
Stand still. This won't take a second.
What? Wait!
Oh, You're quite tall, aren't you?
What? Where are you?
I'm here, with you.
You parasite! Get your own body!
After you kept this one warm for me? Be reasonable, please, my boy.
Can you make your voice come out of me?
I can take complete control of this body if I wish. I will allow you to escort me until we find a suitable vessel for you, for I am a loving father in the end.
I wish you'd stop saying you're my father.
What's that? Did I hear something?
Of course not. Father.
So then, our loyal chosen king has quote-unquote died. At about the same time, someone tried to rebel back in Armenia. We've got another mutiny going on, but it is another case where they can't actually leave us. They just get put into the Armenian noble faction who control the bottom left corner of Armenia. In this case, since both armies will be able to replenish here in allied territory, we will successfully be cloning our army. We'll end up with two of the same army. One of them will just be controlled by our puppet state. Speaking of puppet states, I spotted an emergent faction we need to quickly buy, and as I do that, allow me to explain my vague plan for the end of this campaign. Really, we met our goals in this campaign a long time ago, and I was looking for some sort of conclusive action with the war with Carthage, but as I mentioned, it turned out to be quite easy as things came to an end. So I've decided to close the campaign out with an additional challenge to add on top of this challenge run. I'm not, by the way, going to bother conquering the last bits of the map that we don't have. Britannia is entirely unaligned with us right now, and they don't want to be my puppet state, so we can't get them. But I thought, well, that's fine, because in the weird canon, the Honourable Gentleman late series canon that this series is apparently a part of, it makes sense for Britain to have never been part of the coalition. Or it might do, anyway. So yes, we're not going to bother with them. We're not going to bother finishing off Carthage. What I'm going to do is give myself a This is Total War challenge from this point in the campaign. So what we'll be doing is simulating the betrayal of the coalition. What happens if the entire coalition declares war on us? We're going to forcibly break the coalition up and just declare war on everyone for a possibly non-canon ending to the series, because I want something challenging in terms of gameplay to happen, basically. And also, we never get to see defensive battles, especially defensive sieges, in a campaign that's played so aggressively like this. So the plan is, move everyone gradually back to Armenia, and after all the time it takes for them to get there, we will declare war on the rest of the coalition and see what happens. I haven't actually done that yet, so I can't tell you how well that's going to go, but hopefully it will provide a couple of episodes of endgame challenge and entertainment. We'll see what happens. During the long wait, I'm going to make some preparations. In particular, I'm going to fill each of our 4 settlements with a load of archers and heavy infantry ready to defend them. You may notice we can't recruit most of the things we used to be able to recruit, in particular our heavy spears and cataphracts. That's because the timeline shift caused by the mod updating actually removed a lot of our recruitment options. I guess all the prerequisites got moved around to different buildings, so it screwed everything up. So we'll just have to live without heavy infantry. For now, I'm going to start building the things we need to get them again. Here are the victory conditions, by the way. I thought some of you might wonder if we're anywhere near actually legitimately completing the game with this setup, and we're almost in position to get a military victory. You have to wait a long time to research a certain amount of tech before you're allowed to get it. So I think if we just hit end turn a lot of times, we would eventually be able to pick up military victory. As for the big victory, Divine Triumph, we're not going to be able to get that, because even though we absolutely obliterate the territory requirements, it has things specific to your culture, and you can't spread culture if you don't occupy provinces, meaning it is ultimately impossible for us to get the final game victory condition. Now some closure on the Carthage war. After a few turns, they decided to surrender to us, which is nice. Previously, they'd always rejected puppet state deals, even putting 1 million gold on the table or whatever. So they finally relented, and with that, the world is secured. We've got the whole map, apart from the noted exception of Britannia up there, who don't want to talk to us right now. But as we said, that's probably fine. And it kind of looks like all of the tribes are at peace, they're all allied with each other and stuff, so they don't need the anti-war coalition, I suppose. They've managed to keep war off their doorsteps themselves. That said, I did eventually get some deals with them. Here we are, years and years later in the game. I decided to get military access with all of Britannia so that I could send our technical faction leader with a mercenary and levied army to go sit up at the top left corner of the map, just in case us drawing all of our enemies into Armenia causes us to just be wiped out instantly. Our faction will technically survive, I think, as a horde if this guy is sitting up here in Britannia, so that's our insurance policy. We did also have one of our vassals rebel against us, one of the Norse factions. I think someone raised their settlement or something, or they raised it themselves to become a horde, and that broke them away from the coalition. But once they found some new territory, we brought them back in, and peace was once again secured. We are also at war with 2 other horde factions. Since you can't make hordes into your puppet state, I'm just waiting for them to settle somewhere, and then we'll buy them off. It's the Massilian nobles and some sort of Carthage offshoot faction down in Africa. So anyway, that's going to have to be the end of this episode, because it's going to take a really long time to actually set up the next phase, so I need to go and do that. Hopefully very soon we'll have some fun endgame challenges to take a look at. An Armenian hostage in the Seleucid court, raised to become an administrator of the vast empire, once dreamed of a way to end the oppression not only of his own people, but all conquered peoples. Artaxias and his best friend Sinsharish Kun schemed to create a new Armenian identity and force the empire out of their homeland for good. Artaxias won battle after battle, and Sinsharish Kun span his legend into a cult of personality. Now Armenia was not just a collection of tribes, but a nation under a single untouchable king. To protect his country from reprisal, he subjugated or allied 2 neighbouring kingdoms. Each was dwarfed by the Seleucid Empire, but together they dwarfed it. The alliance Artaxias built, known as the Coalition Against Empire, proved its worth. Its popularity grew, and soon powers from further afield were paying for its protection. Each member remained independent and secure in exchange for contributing to the upkeep of the Armenian kingdom. The ambitious men of the era thought it all a mere ruse, political games, and an exercise in corruption. But the coalition kept growing. Artaxias passed away, and after a challenged succession, the man known as the Chosen King, Esarhaddon, stepped in to lead the huge alliance. He had been groomed for military command for some time, and quickly put all fears at ease by achieving just as much as his predecessor. Something strange was afoot, however. A young man named Menuakapi, a noble from a mountain fief, had returned from a long trip in the wilderness looking almost unrecognizable. Or perhaps he was too recognizable. He looked exactly like the king, Esarhaddon. Somewhere, hidden in the valleys of Eden, he had been a disciple of a mystic he killed in order to steal his power. Esarhaddon proper mysteriously died, but was seamlessly replaced by his spitting image in Menuakapi. This mysterious man proceeded to use the vast wealth of the coalition to pay off its rivals, growing its ranks more, gaining yet more wealth, and beginning a cycle of growth that would consume the entire Western world over the following 30 years. His power did not go unchallenged, however. His use of magic to pursue his ambitions had, to use a figure of speech, opened a Pandora's box. Other magic users from the northern steppe began to manipulate the very passing of time and the course of history in order to foil Menuakapi's ambition. Yet they underestimated the fake Chosen King's power. He summoned the energies of his patron deity, the goddess of chaos and order, Pandora, and changed the entire world line, moving himself into a parallel universe to escape the Dark Mages. However, he was followed. The mages continued to harass the expanding coalition, until finally Menuakapi, now thought to have always been the chosen heir of Artaxias, sent holy warriors to purge the Magi from the steppe. Finally, the timeline was as secure as it was going to get. The remaining world leaders bowed to the immense power of the coalition, all but a few who were destroyed in merciless wars. Some 70 years after Artaxias had drawn a sword on the Emperor Antiochus, that same sword was sheathed by Manua Capi in the deserts of Tunisia. With his life's work complete, the chosen king died. Or so some said. In truth, a man who looked and spoke exactly like him appeared in court. He was not one of the king's strangely spoken body doubles, but an exact copy, or, as everyone assumed, the real king. Thus, he continued to rule his global empire for many years, secretly coexisting in one body with the souls of Artaxias' youngest daughter Alitum, the Armenian military reformer Naram Suan, the Pontic royal formerly in his service, Bakru, and a Pontic royal who had been in the service of Esarhaddon in the king's native world line, Mithridates. His plan was to empower Pandora by maintaining his world order, thus sparing the energies of chaos for her. However, countless millions of people were furious with the chosen king, for indeed they had not chosen him at all. Their concerns would not be ignored forever. Thanks for watching this video, and special thanks to all of the officially Devon patrons for supporting the channel. The next part will probably be in 2 weeks rather than the usual one, because I need to catch up actually recording the footage, and I'm going away about the time this video comes out, so I'll have less time. So watch out for some more Wings of Eden content appearing at some point in the near future.